tenure for Duns River, all right, and Green Grotto. So within the space of 2 months out there, 6 spaces, right, are going to be lost to private interests. Is going to control and charge you what them want to charge you for go up on these beaches, all right? And all the ones them who operate in these spaces, they're going to be displaced.
I want to stop for a moment to hail those who have joined the ancestors, whose lives and works inspire and continue to inspire many. This has been a real challenging week for many of us. A real challenging week. Could you write that for me, please? Thanks. This has been a real challenging week for many of us on the island, and especially for those of us within the Pan-African community. And I still find myself in a tailspin. My head is in a tailspin, more or less, just trying to come to terms for those who are still here, those who remain. So many of our loved ones in the last 7 days have transcended. Some you know, some you do not know. And I've never really seen anything like this or experienced anything like this. And so that every day I was getting news of another loved one who had transcended, and it really knocked me for 6 and then some, just trying to grasp what was happening in the last 2 weeks. So I want to hail those who've joined the ancestors, and just to stop for a minute to pay tribute and to say, may their journey into the Ipet Isut be peaceful. Shemhotep. Or dearest sister friend, a family member, and by family I mean a Pan-African Africa Forum Running African family member from the beginning until now. Omaliwa Tia, ex Kontazi Picnic, she called herself. And she is the daughter of Kontazi, transcended. And this was a shock. This was a shock to my system. And, you know, I talked to her pretty often on the phone. And I spoke to her just a few weeks ago. And, you know, we had a really good conversation. Just really good conversation. I was saying to her sister Moji that she was more ill than I thought when I spoke to her because her voice was so strong. And Moji said, yes, that is the situation. So to the family of Count Azi, to Mojiba and the children and the family of Omalia Tia, to the Running African family. Because one thing we know is that there is an ongoing conversation about, just within and among members of the Africa Forum, the family, online, regardless of the spaces, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, or X, Blue Sky, wherever we are, WhatsApp and the WhatsApp groups, that Tia is in all of those spaces and engage with the family in all of those spaces. And over time, she has represented us so well in all of those spaces that I said to her over time, just go right ahead and represent. I love her. I know she's a genuine sister. She's been that, sister and more. Last time we interviewed her, It was when I was sitting in for Muta Baruka, and it was a Wednesday night. She came in with the family, and I think Moji was in studio too. Yeah, Moji was there, and the children, two of the children. And we were talking about her father, Count Ozzy. It was tribute to Count Ozzy, about their father. And both Moji and Tia were in studio. That's the last time I interviewed her. But I have been in constant contact with her. So that when my phone rang last week and her name came up, I answered. I said, "How are you, my beautiful, gorgeous, beautiful sister?" And the person said, "No, this is Moji Kabu." It didn't mean any. It didn't ring a bell. It didn't, because I'm looking at the phone and I'm seeing Tia, and I'm saying, "Yes, Tia, I'm seeing you. I'm seeing your beautiful picture on your screen." And this is why I'm all, I'm saying all the things I'm saying. And then Moji said, "No, it's Moji. It's Moji Kabu. It's Moji." And it kind of hit me. Then I said, "Moji," and from then, she had Moji, my heart, my sister, because, she cried just telling me all of this. She broke down, and I was in shock. I was in total shock. Not much I could say. I couldn't find anything to say, but after a while, we did find, our deepest spiritual selves, and were able to talk a bit. I want to virtually to send a hug to you, Mojiba, and to the family, Count Ozzy Pickney, them, all of them, just to hug you. I know that Tia was a glue that held the family together. I know that she loved her family. We've had many, many, many conversations. And so, to the family of Count Ozzy, to all of Count Ozzy Pickney, to the Running African family, to the Pan-African family, Tia meant so much to us, and I suppose we'll have other conversations about her and what she's achieved over her life. We'll talk to her sisters, Moji, and her family once they're able to do that. But we miss her from the space. There's never a Sunday morning when she, as long as she's okay, she comes on to say, "Kabu, I'm here. I'm in the space. Omaliwa Tia X." That's her name. And this morning I took a while to post that we were coming on air, because I just didn't want to face the, that all of that. So to the family once again, my heart to you, my heart to you, my heart to you. This one. Yeah. And the very same day that I got that call, the very same day, I got a text message from my brother, Iwa. And when I listened, it was Pele's voice, and that's Mother Fire's son. And it was Pele saying that Mama Fire had transcended. And that was the very same day. It was and in short order, So to Mama Fire, and Mama Fire, a mother in this space, an empress in this space who has done a woman's work in terms of Nyabingi. Understanding Nyabingi, understanding that Nyabingi is a woman. Nyabingi is a woman, a Bantu woman. This Mama Fire understood, and so that in all that she did, she lifted Empress Menin, and she lifted women, and this was her life's work. I am sure, because she'd already asked me, that this morning we would be interviewing Mama Fire about the Adwa Nyabingi. We already spoke about it. I knew she was going to be on this morning. That was already confirmed. And for me, it is also a really great loss, but we understand the journey. Mama Fire was ill for a period. It was a short period from the time we heard until the time she transcended, but we have been in constant communication with her. I have also spoken to Father Fire. And Father Fire is scheduled to be on in this space this morning. We spoke to him earlier this morning. Also, Pele is scheduled to be on. But we can't get you back online, Father Fire. We're not getting you, Pele. So if you're listening, Father Fire, let us know. We dialed you this morning. We spoke to you this morning. Father Fire himself has been ill for a while. As you know, we've spoken to them many, many times in this space. So he himself is battling illness. I spoke to him last week. His voice was pretty strong, but I know that you too, Father Fire, battling illness. Pele, Father Fire, if you're hearing, we spoke to you earlier this morning, but we're not getting you back on the phone, and I'm not quite sure why. So if you could give us a call. But to Father Fire, Pele, Rebecca, to the family, to the wider family, my deepest, deepest condolences to the Rastafari family, to the Rastafari empresses, to the sisters, to the daughters of Zion, to the Rastafari family on a whole, from all of us here. Many years ago, Sister P called me and she said, you know, I want to introduce you to a sister. And this Sister P wanted to introduce me to her because we were doing the Marcus Garvey event, Molimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey event, and she wanted me to assist Mother Fire with one of the stalls. And she called me to say, you know, there's a Rastafari Empress that I want to introduce you with, and have a conversation with her because she's reached out to me to see if she can get a stall at the Garvey event. And I told her that I'd call you. Now, Sister P is somebody who doesn't call B when people tell her to reach out to me. She doesn't. She always tells me that. Listen, I'm not interfering. I tell them call you directly. But with Mama Fire, she did make that call many years ago. And you know, Kishima Francis and myself, once I met Mama Fire and we had a conversation, we said, okay, fine. And it was going to happen. That's many years ago. And so I introduced her to Kishima Francis. And we never had a meeting here at IRFM. There was no meeting where Kishima didn't say, and remember Mama Fire. This is how it was. This is how it is. You can expect that Kishima will say, and remember Mama Fire. Whatever we were planning, whatever we were doing. So it went beyond the events for Molimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey. It is we're coming to terms with our sisters transcending, and we just on Friday buried Nana Velma Pollard. Once again, my heart and a virtual hug, a really big one, to Nana Erna Bradba and to the Bradba family and the Pollard family and to the literary family here on the island and globally to the University of the West Indies and the poets across the world and the literary Rastafari family. Dread Voice, Dread Talk was written by Nana Velma Pollard, to the family in Woodside, in St. Mary and Rock Spring. Once again, our deepest condolences. So we're dealing with these. This was like our head in a spin, you know, and we're coming to terms. Yeah, man. Yeah, is this Father Fire or Pele? Who do we have?
This is Papa Fire, Mama.
Papa Fire.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man, give thanks. Is your son with you? Is Pele with you, Mama Fire's son?
Yeah, Pele is right here with me, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what it happened to the phone, California on the right, that's what it is,
but possibly, we'll call a long time. But good to have you on the line. My deepest condolences to you, to the family, to Pele, to Rebecca. And just a virtual hug I'm sending to you both, to you, all of you right now, as a matter of fact, from all of us here. Papa Fire, how are you doing?
Well, Mama, I just have to stay strong within the power of Rastafari, you know, and the Almighty power, because right now, towards the king, I was listening there and talking about Count Azzy, and family said, you know. And I was right there listening and expect to call up when I hear it, and then, you know.
Yes.
You're not getting too weird. So I just run outside, I want to take a milk bang and I want to just make a call.
Yes. Father Fire, you know, we me and you talk already, and I know that you were right there at the very moment, you know, so we don't necessarily want to put you through that again. But to say, you know, we loved and love Mama Fire in this space. She was loved. Pele, my condolences to you, my brother. How you doing?
Yeah, Pele.
All right, so we're speaking with Papa Fire and Pele. Yes, Pele. Yes. Greetings, my brother. How you doing?
You know, it's a mixed vibration. But I am giving thanks this morning, you know. I'm giving thanks to all of the blessing that Mama restore upon iron and to our humility and humbleness. So we kind of be soldier on the back of it for her, because to make sure she asks her to be that soldier for her, at least bring through the whole celebration of the victory, and our victory, and then we can't do anything more do after, because she just done a show that from earlier that that's where she want the family to rally around with her, with her life. That means that if after anything happens, then she will accept it. You know, we up to the full time, so Mama tried to design I tried, you know, the selection realms and leave I on the duty as a general, you know, and leave all our soldiers on the back of the state. So
yes.
we don't have the time to mourn.
Yes.
Really, not even sad, but just be happy.
Yes.
That yes. Almost 50 years with my mama. So,
yes. And I know, and I hear you talk about what she wanted, and you're so right about that, because we had already spoken. She told me long time. She said, "Listen, the Adwa celebrations coming up. We're going to have it, and you know, we as usual we need some time on the program. The time was always hers to have. I know she would have been on this morning. So I hear you saying that these plans are still going ahead. Talk to me about that."
Yeah, man, most definitely the Rastafari family in tune ticket was bought already from Chile and all over. So we're going in strong, you know. Mama tried to Zion, so we know say the Zion I tried after maintain. The Zion I tried where Mama maintain is an ancient story from when man, just simple man, you know, and we all carry a piece of wood on the fire and burn. So Wednesday night coming, which is the 26th, we hope we have that bonfire vibration, you know, they call it candlelight setting, but I and Rastafari, and we deal with that ancient set, we are maintaining. So I want to put a piece of wood in the fire, and just like I want to light a candle, we hold that vibrational push and go into where Mama love, you see.
And that is on Wednesday.
Yes, and on the Thursday, you know, there's an interlude where man can get themselves together, and then the Friday is a tribute day. Mama is organized up and say, bring in some strength so that it'll become a pressure on her, because she is too much drain the family, and she has to boy victory was celebrating her, except that the unity, the wider family she expect to come in. And she started said that from earlier to the night being that everyone just come in with strength and see how we can celebrate in a full way without the pressuring on anyone individual, you know. So yeah, Friday in the day from 12 o'clock till midnight would be that rally. Tribute one, bringing in a tribute one and things like that to the microphone, and we can record those historical vibrations going in. And I being here, kick off within its full reverence from midnight straight till Monday morning, sealing up on the third. Yeah, that's so we slate out the whole victory celebration so that our people can continue celebrating that 18th century victory over, you know, those evil forces, you know.
Okay, so we're looking at Wednesday, this Wednesday coming, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, into Monday.
Yes, sir.
And Thursday a rest day. All right, and that's going to happen where?
Right here at White Rock, Buff Bay, Mama Fire, Indigenous Vibrational Center, which is a Rastafari Center in Portland, you know, the Nyabingi Center. Not just Nyabingi, but a center that's open to every Rastafari. That's from day one. Mama said that she born Nyabingi, but she rally with every Rastafari on the planet Earth. She never leave her after.
That is true. That is true. All right. So we're making that call to the family to make their way to Buff Bay in Portland Wednesday, and also Friday, Saturday, Sunday into Monday. The celebration would have been happening anyway. This is what Mama Fire planned. This is how she wanted it. We had a conversation. Every year she does this, and it's happening in her name just the same. All right, Pele, anything else we need to know?
Yeah, man. And so I'm just asking all Rastafari who know that ancient tribe, Mama tribe, I like a 3-generational tribe, because I am doing the 3rd generation. But overstanding Rastafari is always in need of things. But we always work it out with each other, because a man carry a coconut, a man carry a breadfruit. Someone carry something, and those who have cash always try for food coming in them way. And we go through in our island way that we not have to be some people will look like we don't have nothing. So I think that I reach out to the community, remember that anciency that Rastafari and African people pull away. We put them something on the table, and the whole we go for something, and the whole we being fed. So we hope that vibration can push, and we go through Isla full, and then we know that it's a time where we have to establish some date to when we are going to leave Mama to rest here and where in a power. And so we consider it as family, say, coming up to the 23rd, that'll be a Isla vibration. And so we'll have one day before the 23rd that we have a break, and one day that we have that grand celebration before when we want to say goodbye, before we go to the graveside. So that day would have be the Friday, and then the Saturday it'll be the 22nd, right? So that day would have be off. Mr. Isis Miller urged strong that too. And so we hope that we can. No, I think that's Sister Misty Earthstrong. Sorry, Sister Isis. Yes, Sister Misty Earthstrong. So we hope that day would have be in between where everyone rests up and thing, and then the Sunday, the 23rd, we'll lay her to rest, and them Iowa would have the forward in and ready for to the ceremony with the Ethiopian Orthodox.
All right, so we'll hear much more along the way as the plans flesh themselves out. So hold strong, hold faith, continue to do what you're doing. Take care. I know you're already doing that, but take care of Papa Fire as usual, and we'll keep the lines open. We'll hear from you again. Pele, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Papa Fire. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, man. I'm going to give forward Fire the phone, but I'm just saying, give thanks to Riddle, give thanks to Kabu, give thanks to IRFM, and all of the one them, big up Mota, and everyone that share this life with Mama Fire. I know I can't just call one set of name, but everyone that come by their name, Rastafari, who hold that energy and African people and the Pan-African community, Yes. Out of strength,
All right, let me just wrap up with Papa Fire.
Yes,
so you've heard the...
yes, Mr. Kabu.
Yes, Papa Fire. So thank you so much. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're resting. We know you're not so well yourself. How you doing?
Mama, I'm keeping so strong as I say, the words are behind them and the encouragement,
Yes.
The whole IRFM family had said they can't call name quite too much, And everyone, they have to just give thanks to the strength that each one call me and tell me Papa hold strong,
Yes,
I would know that Mama is still here with I, and I know that I feel it to the heart, tell you like when I feel it, man. So just give thanks to the moment, give thanks to Radio Land and everyone,
And take care, Papa Fire. We'll keep in touch.
All right.
I have online my very special guest right now, our brother Ajamu, Dr. Ajamu Nagwa. Morning, greetings.
How are you doing?
Well, you're there. You're in the farm, right?
Oh yeah, no, I'm in the farm bees.
Okay. Yeah.
Good morning.
All right. It means that we're gonna have to just continue doing these in parts and so on because we lose 8 minutes, so we just want to get right into it. I'm actually playing Peter Tosh, Mystic Man, in the background because I wanted to start there as we look at Peter Tosh's impact and influence and the kind of a militant person that he was, but to go beyond that and to look at this profound impact that he had, not just on the development of reggae and roots music, but just on social and political issues. So I wanted to start with him and what he said about himself. I'm a mystic man. Talk us through how Peter Tosh identified himself, Brother Ajamu.
Yes, good morning, sister. I'm glad to be here and to listen. A very important person like Peter Tosh, a person whose work and significance still with us in terms of words putting in songs and how they can guide our action or that inspire us. Peter Tosh is someone, we should always remember the context and work that Peter Tosh come out of the working class, born in rural area, among the rural poor. So whenever I'm born as an African also, because I remember during the time of colonialism, to live as an African and working class, to come from the laboring classes, is to live a marginal economic and social life. So when we should always remember that, when we talk about the system of down oppression, the system of down oppression, we talk about racism, we talk about colonialism, we talk about also capitalism as the economic system that brought us into slavery, that continued to economically exploit us after slavery, during colonialism, and even up to today. So if you talk about the poor man, I feel it in our song. We know he's talking about the African laboring classes, and he's talking about racism, and as well as talking about capitalism as an economic system. So his lived experience shaped how he committed himself to the people, that his music carried a message, and his background shaped that. So we should always take that into consideration when we hear Peter Tosh, when I'm talking about, yes, we're African people, or if he's talking about the Python brothers, the Python sisters, fight against the system of racial down oppression and economic exploitation in apartheid South Africa. It's contextualized by the space in which they actually experience certain type of living. And that's, because, and talk about racial alienation as a young person, racial oppression growing up, and how the Africans are situated in his rural context of Westmoreland. And we have to, and there's something that continues today. Like when we talk about the justice system, if we go to court and we look who are the people there, whether as defendants or definitely people who get sent away, they're Africans. We look on the streets of Jamaica and say homeless people, people with mental health issues. We're talking about Africans, and not just Africans from the working class. Because the prison, enough to talk about Africans from the middle class or the petty bourgeoisie, or people who are the top of the top of the food chain in the Jamaican society, are poor people, working class Africans. So Tosh's work continue to be important and resonate with us. Like when I listen to his protest song, I'm saying, my gosh, it's like he's talking about today.
Like, and that's such a good point to make, because he. What do you think is responsible for that in terms of him being so relevant today? When you look at our present condition, what he spoke about so many years ago, to what extent then have we, the more things change, the more they remain the same, considering how relevant his lyrics are? I mean, from the 80s to now.
Okay, you see the thing is that, for one, there are two things going on with Tosh now. They created their music in a time of social change, when radical ideas circulate in the place. So as an artist, you can't help but reflect the radical ideas that are current. The urgency in the song, the sense that we could change things, and we need to change things, because they had a time of organization, and so radical ideas would be circulating. It was the ideas when burn down capitalism and create a socialist society, even though them never embraced socialism. But I hear the ideas about equality and justice and peace These are the type of ideas. Like today when we're here, we hear those radical ideas circulating. Them not circulating because on your program.
Ajamo, we're losing. We're not hearing you too well, Ajamo. I'm not quite sure what it is. I know it's a phone problem, so I'm not quite sure if you're moving around or it's just, the system. But we lost most of what you said just now.
It is. So so with the two things, the idea circulating in society contribute to that. So of course that will influence their work.
Yes.
So when people say that, wow, the work of Peter Tosh was timeless, like he was before his time. No, he wasn't before his time. The same system that he was criticizing in the 60s, 70s, and 80s is the same system around. So it's not like he was talking for his time, because it's the same system or person else. That is why it's relevant. So whenever you hear people say, oh, Peter Runningc came before his time, Bob Marley came before his time, Peter Tosh came before his time.
Yes.
No, they didn't come before his time because it's the same system operating.
Is that the systems? I hear the point you're making. The systems that they were critiquing, the systems that they were foregrounding, these systems remain firmly in place.
Yes, and that is why it sounds like they're talking about today, like they came before their time, talking about things we're experiencing. But for some reason, people like to put forward that reasoning that great contributions to the struggle came before the time. No, I don't know why we need to know, but that is.
But I thank you for bringing that to the fore, because I'm sure that a lot of people listening to this are saying, I am guilty of this, I'm guilty of this. But it's a very good point you make, that before we say people come before their time, stop for a minute to look at what it is that they were critiquing, what it is that we're talking about, what it is that was of significant social commentary, if you will, and to see if these systems remain in place. Because if that is the case, then we are within the time and probably behind our time if we ourselves are not critiquing. Hold for me, please, Brother Ajamo. Let me take a quick break.
Yeah, man.
Now, recruiting soldiers. This is one of the songs that had a serious impact on me. It might sound simple, but when Peter say I recruit soldier, I immediately me salute and say, yes, sir. This is phenomenal, isn't it? You're talking about a serious kind of militancy. He doesn't hide behind the lyrics.
No, definitely. It's like, remember now, I'm at a stepping raise there now. So when you put out an idea, I'm serious about his commitment, and he's serious about the outcome that he wanted. And that is the type of things that we need to learn. So even if I recruiting soldiers for the army, people say, oh yeah, I'm just talking about Rastafari. He's talking about, you and I,
of course, joining
political movements, putting in the political work to change things. Because remember, Peter Tosh was someone who, during the 1968 Walter Rodney Rebellion in Kingston, a man took a jail for some trench town, capture a bus, and go down with the uprising that take place, and bring people, and people go raid the stores, and people say, oh, they're looting. But no, we're looting plantation because the wealth belongs to the ruling class, the capitalist class, and they exploit our labor to do that. So during moments of rebellion, you see the way that during the time of their enslavement, when the Maroons and other Africans go and raid the storehouse at the plantation, during rebellion, when we raid stores and places owned by the capitalist exploiter, it's the same reason that we're doing. So we're sure that Peter Tosh knows us stop. Peter Tosh also engaged in the moments of our rebellion and participate with the people to come and get a bus and drive down the site of the uprising. Because Jamaican people, the African working class, after the independence, we weren't getting any benefits at all. Actually, things got worse for us. Unemployment, the level of poverty during the first few years of independence than it was on the eve of independence. Economic situation was worse. And that is why Edward Siaga brought Marcus Garvey's born to Jamaica and made him national hero, because they had nothing to offer Jamaican people in a material way. So they brought Garvey as a kind of symbolic distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because Garvey was supportive of capitalism, Garvey's ideas wasn't threatening to them at the economic level. Maybe on a richer level, but they realized
or at least at the surface. At least at the surface, yeah.
Because but we think to the People's Army is very, very critical.
Yes.
Because if we don't have people politically committed to the cause of liberation, we can't really do anything. We can't do anything, and that is part of our challenge today, is that not enough of us are involved in organizations committed to social justice or to liberation.
One of the things...
So we think the Soldier Army is one of the most central things to revolutionary struggles, to radical engagement. Because remember, even when he was talking about fighting apartheid in South Africa, and he was just saying, my brothers, fight on. They have to be included into the struggle to wage a militant war against racist and economic oppression in South Africa. In general, he's saying that come in as your army, so that we can fight. We can fight and fight.
Brother Ajamo, let me stop you for a minute and to say, now we see the current president of the United States, when there was that attempted assassination on him and he raised his fist, punched the air and said, fight, fight, fight. Now, that has become the rallying cry for his base and even others. Now that he's also turned, as you talk about Peter Tosh, fight against apartheid, but as you look in South Africa, he is now turned his attention to South Africa and is rewarding those who were part of that apartheid system, even providing refuge for them while kicking out other Africans like the Congolese and the Haitians and so many others. But at the same time saying, we will give you refuge as Afrikaans if you feel that you are oppressed in South Africa. Isn't this phenomenal even within the context of Peter Tosh and this idea of fight on?
No, absolutely. Because remember, I have 2 songs about apartheid, and both of them are encouraging a certain militancy that is necessary to move a struggle forward. So what we see Trump doing is something that they will do because they're in solidarity with each other. Remember, he's talking about the land, and Peter Tosh, said, fight on and free the land. When Trump and his friends from all over the world are sympathized with the African minority, it's not just a racial minority, but also an economic minority, because they're the ones who control major industries, as white people in South Africa, white minority. So when Peter Tosh focus on the land question is what's fueling this, because they're saying the Africans are take back their land from the white minority and depriving them of wealth. Yes, the land belongs to the people. The land belongs to the people, and that is what they're fighting for. Remember in the song apartheid, Peter Tosh said, you live in a land quite illegal. You live in a land that take on the gold. It's about the land and the resources, and we're nothing without the land, because nature provided the land free of cost to us, and it has all the wealth that we need in order to function. Without it, we'll become just marginal people working for the economic minority, the capitalist minority. But Tosh was right on. It's about the land, free the land. When you think about with diamond,
yes.
and so you can make your ballistic missile as well as to finance your ballistic missile. That's what Peter Tosh talk about. Tosh is so. One thing I've always said to people, even with the song apartheid, he had to do his research about the song. You'll find in dancehall some people say, free Mandela, I say free Mandela. No, I'm talking about you cross the border, you shoot the children, and we're talking about the apartheid regime going to the frontline states who are supporting the liberation fighters, and they will shoot people, kill children. He was talking about the factual things of apartheid in South Africa. As opposed to those here headline, he said, free Mandela, Mr. Free Mandela. He's talking about practical things. They say, in our land, there's a school for black children. In our land, there's no hospital. So you, as someone, could listen to Peter Tosh and say, wait, so the system stay. rather than you just pick a headline and talking about a rhyming. Peter, and one of the things people are always saying is that Peter Tosh was the first one to introduce them to the system of apartheid and oppression going on against African people. So it is a start in the 70s. And he was also someone who even engaged in protest action against Ian Smith in what they call Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. From a long time, Peter Tosh was committed to freeing the land and helping the people. And even the liberation fighters in South Africa and Namibia talk about listening to Peter Tosh's song about fighting apartheid and how it inspired them. And they remember it today.
This is a song you're talking about, and interestingly enough, was you mentioned what happened, Jam. The two songs playing at the same time. No, Peter Tosh is easy, I'm going to blame Peter because let me tell you what happened. I'm playing a party. The two songs playing at the same time, though. And I don't even know how it happened on this one song may I play. But anyway,
right.
So it is what it is. It's the isness of things. Well, because we're completely out of time, I want to quickly touch before we go. People have talked about enduring legacy, but I need to ask it about Peter and your thinking on what is Tosh's enduring legacy and how can his music continue to inspire and to educate listeners, but also to say that there is even for new generations of musicians and activists and fans, what lessons can be drawn from Peter as we look to make this change that we're talking about.
One of the legacies is just the continued and the consistent commitment to the struggle, and it's reflected in his songs. Remember, during the time, no, we're not fearful of nuclear war is going to end it. But he had a song and say, we don't want no nuclear war. Because nuclear war, it won't take us far. And he might talk about factual things in it. So much so that worldwide people recognize him. He might talk about the type of missiles that the Soviet Union had at the time, or the type of nuclear missiles that America had. He was very committed to that. When you talk about the day the dollar died, there will be no more oppression. The day the dollar died, it will be so sweet. And they were talking about de-dollarization so that we can remove the influence that America has over the world economy because we're using its currency. And so much so that Trump is saying, you create an alternative currency, any country, we're going to impose sanctions on you. We're going to punish you because they realize using the American dollar as the international currency is a source of power. And it weakens us. They know that. It's a way to maintain their power and even to continue their economy and mask the fact that it's declining as an economic power, in spite of still being powerful economically. Without the dollar being the international currency to expose America's weakness. Because America can keep on printing its own money. It doesn't matter the debt level because it's paying for its debt in its own currency. So it can always print it because it's not going to cause inflation in its own place. But there's a world thing, and Peter is talking about the day the dollar dies.
Which is very prophetic, isn't it? Very prophetic if you look at it. But then you can also situate it. You can situate this, I think, within his Pentecostal background, because coming from the very same background, this is what we were being taught in Sunday school, that the dollar is going to die, the Chinese money is going to rise, America is going to fall, China is going to rise. My father used to teach these things at Sunday school. So when I heard that, I hear the Pentecostal teaching coming out in a lot of his lyrics, actually. Very interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you're also talking about the poor man, I feel it.
Yes.
Then there's a song talking about that, and the things that he's itemizing, the inflation, unemployment. He's talking about Jamaica today. He's talking about global societies where people are oppressed all over the world. So that's why the timelessness of his words, because he's still critiquing the system. He critiqued the system then, which is the same system we're operating under. So when we listen to people, say, hold on there. Yes. Today, we talk about, today we talk about the system of the oppression. I want to invite people to keep in mind.
I want to invite you in the studio sometime down the line. We just play Peter Tosh and talk about Peter Tosh, critique Peter Tosh, and just have our listeners engaging in all of this, because I think that this is, especially because it's so relevant right now, but for many other reasons.
No, I would love that, sister. And if that person want to play a Peter song, a Tosh song today, play Don't Press a Man. When
Don't Press a Man. Let me see if it's on the album here. Which album it on? I can't find it anyway. Yes, I will find it and I will play it. All right, because I'm playing Pure Peter Tosh all morning. All right, I will. Thank you so much, Brother Ajamu. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sister. Bye now.
This is basically what this is. So thank Irons Mechanical for coming on board, sponsoring this hour from 7 to 8. And anybody want to sponsor the hour from 9 to 10, 6 to 7, that's okay too. We're good with that. How you do?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Sponsorship is always good. Especially, from a community level,
Yes.
So no one can have any strings attached.
Exactly. It's important because when you work in commercial media, radio time is expensive, and these things have to be kept on air. So we welcome sponsorship, especially when sponsors do not get involved at the level of telling you what to say or what not to say.
Yeah, like how the lobbyists them control the government and tell the government what to say, what to do,
right,
and how to treat its people.
And a lot of that coming from the funding industrial complex, because when power comes with money. And so when people are getting funding from powerful spaces, then even their own lobbying, especially in developing countries, are held at a higher level than, say, we the people who take to the street. We the people who stand up at Blue Lagoon and demonstrate. We the people who march against oppression and the gentrification of the Roaring River, for example.
Yeah.
That whole area. Building a Chinatown in the middle of a watershed.
Yes.
So we the people find ourselves more and more powerless. And the interesting thing is that we're seeing this across the globe. Some serious numbers are marching against Israel's genocide in Palestine. We're talking about millions of people, and there is no change. What do you think is happening here?
Yeah, it's an observation, all right, that the mobilization of the people, right, is happening, but there is not the depth of organization, right, and the linkages across groups that are facing these similar system of oppressions, right, whether they may be sitting in the Caribbean, in North America, within Africa and the Middle East. I think all of these ones now, all of us need to start coming together. So we pressure the system, not only at the site, right, where the oppression is happening, but also other spaces. And, the good example of that, is how apartheid crumbled, right? That, the fight was not only won on the ground. The ground was an important battle, and all the warriors them ran at the front line. But the pressure of the system.
How did we win that? Okay, you win the war but lose a battle, or you win the battle but lose a war. Anyway, because if you look at South Africa now, the apartheid party is back in power. The ANC has lost power in a serious way. They are now co-sharing with the very same apartheid oppressors. Not only that, we have people like the technocrats out of the U.S., Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, and all of those who are from South Africa, actually, who have influenced this space, Donald Trump, to say, apartheid oppressors, enslavers, if you feel as if you are being treated wrong in South Africa, then we have places for you we have land for you in America. Come in as refugees, but not only that, we will sanction South Africa and we'll squeeze South Africa economically to ensure that they do not reclaim the land that you have stolen from them. How did we get back to apartheid is the point I'm making, that apartheid is dead. Long live apartheid.
Yeah, the people, right? It's we the people, we have to always be paying attention, and only the government's accountable. You can never back off to really think that you have arrived, because your situation is better. And we have seen that when them start divide up people into classes, there are some classes that are comfortable and want to aspire to the ruling class, and sort of fight, get diluted because people are not fully engaged. We can see that in Jamaica, there's so many things, there's so many structural injustices in Jamaica. The need for structurally changing how the country operate. But we, the people, have taken a backseat because, we are saying that, well, this government is not better than that government and both of them are the same. But if we want the change, we have to go out there and organize ourselves and mobilize ourselves within our civic group, in our community, and rebuild back and keep the pressure up. So once the people take their eyes off the leadership and off the leaders who are running the country, then these things can happen, right? But we have to keep that power. And internationally, we're seeing how the world is being militarized against the people. So when people rise up, we do see that militarism come at the people. But we can't back down. We have to really face that head on. And that is one of the things we're going to realize right now. The oligarch and the rich, right, they are recapturing the voice of the earth, the people of the earth, the direction of how things move is being recaptured through money. All right? And them of us believe that we are simple just that.
Always a reset. Let me take a break and come back. Dr. Devon Taylor is live in the studio. He's usually on the phone, but he's live in the studio. A quick break. Ochurea, specializing in general servicing, diagnostic checks, transmission flush and injector cleaning. Call 876-919-6107 or 876-423-5154. Dr. Taylor is a founding member of JABEM, Jamaica Beach Right Environmental Movement. He's a senior biomedical research scientist in immunology, working in the biopharmaceutical industry in the United States. We're not going to touch any of that this morning.
We'll appreciate that,
Look here, I am tempted, I am so tempted, but I'm going to leave it because I'm not him coming up for.
Yeah, well, we can't, any direction, you don't know it going.
I know. Can you play the game? But, so Dr. Taylor, you actually came in for a specific purpose because JABEM, as usual, we've talked about this a lot, has taken, it's facing neocolonialism right in its face, in the courts, through the laws. And so a lot of the cases related to access to land, access to rivers, access to our waters, our oceans, our seas, and so on, or lagoons, you're challenging through JABEM and the team, challenging the law. It is the law that we speak about a lot, this colonial era law. Now, you came in for one of these court cases. This one was relating to the Blue Lagoon. Tell us give us a context of that and what happened.
Yeah, and what we are really challenging is the system, right? Is the system we want to take down, all right? This colonial system that basically says we are unworthy of these spaces. So Blue Lagoon, is the ground zero in Portland, all right? In 2018, there's a designation to a wide section of Portland waterfront between Alligator Head and the tip of Dragon Bay that was designated as a national monument, right? And that national monument gives the rights of the people to really access that space, including Sansan Bay, Sansan Beach, all right? They pushed in 2022, to shut down the Blue Lagoon, right? Under the pretext that, the Blue Lagoon was operating in, a way that was not suitable as an attraction. So, they sat down with, many stakeholders were part of that, right? And what should have happened within 6 months, the Blue Lagoon should have been reopened. And, the brethren them in the Blue Lagoon Alliance of the Sea, an economic group that operates in the space, lots of rafting, craft work, there's also a fishing beach inside there, all kinds of things these youths doing to feed their family, right, in and around, Fairy Hill, Drapers, Zion Hill, all the way up to Manchilid, Port Antonio, the community use the space, depend on the space for their livelihood. Jamaica use the space, recreation, spiritual practices in the space, right? All, what we do in terms of the cultural heritage of the country, right? That is one of the grounds on which the monument was designated, and it was shut down. We watched the thing over close to a year and see that they had no intention in opening the space. So we had a tool that we could use to pressure the system in order to protect the space, because we know that under the prescription law of Jamaica, if you break or interrupt, the public's access and the public's customary use of a space, then they would have lost that. They couldn't challenge it in the system because they'd have been like, you guys have acquiescence your rights to the space, so you no longer can go there. So we had to put an order in the court, so we had to file a case in the court in order to protect the space.
Yes.
All right? And that is the battle that's been raging for 2 years.
2
right?
years.
2 years battle raged.
And there was a court date on Thursday.
Yes. So we had
you were in court?
Yeah, we were in court, all right, and we go court on Thursday. Now, what we really see in court on Thursday, Jamaican people must know it, all right? Jabem and, the Blue Lagoon Alliance and all the people around, right, we have one champion lawyer facing down 5 lawyers, right? And some of the biggest in the country. The system that we're going up against, all right, of draw for our army, right, including ones with depth in constitutional law, ones with connectivity across the spectrum of power in Jamaica.
Who did Jabem challenge in court? Who did Jabem take to court?
So we are taking to court the Portland Municipal Corporation.
Which is the government of Jamaica.
Which is the government.
So Jabem, so hold on there.
Hold on, the list continues.
Okay, the government.
The government also through the Jamaica National Heritage Trust.
That's the government again.
That's the government. And then we have 3 private entities. Coal Harbour is one of those. Blue Lagoon, Blue Lagoon Corporation is another one, and there's another one.
So hold on, the government through the Jamaica National Heritage Trust and the municipal council, which is a former parish council, are fighting the people on the same side of the corporations.
Absolutely. All right, because as one of your guests last week talked about, the parochial road is that one of the tracks that the community uses is controlled by the parish council of Portland, and the road is closed, right?
So hold on, let me ask you another question. The government of Jamaica, through the parish council and the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, are fighting against the people of Jamaica on the side of the corporation?
Absolutely.
I know it's the same question, but it's another question because I do not understand it.
Well, the government is complicit in the exclusion and disempowerment of its people as far as it concerns to coastal spaces. That is very clear. We've seen it all across the go. Ochi is another ground zero. How much spaces we have, we can enter the sea from down here. That is the government control the land. The beach is vested in the crown.
So when the people take corporations to court for denying the people access to land and to water, the government side with the corporations? The government are fighting against the people? No, I'm trying to understand this.
It really boggles the mind, right? It boggles the mind. Because if we unpack it on how the law set up in Kabu, all right, it said a foreshore is vested in the crown, right? And the crown estate, which is controlled now through the Commissioner of Lands. And we understand the Commissioner of Land is appointed by the Governor General. But that Commissioner of Land sits in the National Land Agency. The National Land Agency sits in the office of the Prime Minister of Jamaica. All right? So the linkage is connected to the sea, connected to the lands that adjoin the sea and the beach. It's all controlled by the government. And if we cannot access beaches and we cannot use the sea, it is not because the landowner have the power to block us. It's because the government allow the landowner to block us. And so the roads and tracks and roadways that leads to our beaches, many of them have been controlled by the government, and the government's, through whatever corruption have transferred these to private interests. It has happened in Old Fort Beer. Old Fort Beer, the parochial road that leads to the sea, that is no longer a parochial road controlled by the parish council of St. Anne, is now controlled by the Old Fort Beer. Mommy Beer North, that sits right next door to Rio Hotel down there, at a parochial road through Sydney Beach and all of the ones them in around Steertown and St. Anne know it, that leads to the sea. That's no longer a parochial road, right? That's a road controlled by Mommy Beer elites. Now the same thing is going on in Portland. The parochial road that leads to the Blue Lagoon is now under the threat of privatization. So we have seen the model existing in St. Anne, and they're exporting that model into Portland to shut down the parochial road and lock out the people. Trust me, Jamaica, that is what's going on. And the government don't stand up and say, that can't go on. The government always side with these people. That's what we're fighting against. The system of oppression.
What is the definition of government? Let me ask AI. Let me ask Meta AI. What is define government? No, but if I talk to AI, good, because AI will cost me off definition of government. I do not understand it. That means so this whole thing, democracy, is a scam. Because them say we the people, for the people, by the people. So it's a bigger scam.
It is a scam, right. All right, but we cannot sit down and allow this to continue.
This is the definition: the organization, machinery, or agency through which a political unit exercises its authority, controls its affairs, and provides public services. So, it's for them authority, it's for them affair, and it's for them public service. So we don't have nothing to do with that. We the people who they depend on to vote them in, and there's another election coming up in short order. We are not considered part of government. We're not. By definition, we're supposed to be, but in practice, and it's a business of thing, we're not. All right. So, what is a court case? What is it? Help us to understand the case that was brought.
Yes.
What's the statement?
So it's a case that was brought to say there are several tracks and roadways that leads to the Blue Lagoon and the fishing beach, right? That the public have been using for a minimum of 20 years. The community have been using it for more than 50 years. When we, do our work there on the ground. And what we want is we're asking the court to recognize the indefeasible right of the public to continue to use the parochial road and all the tracks on the roadway so we can continue to access the Blue Lagoon, use the sea, still fish there, still carry out all the commerce that the ones are doing in there, all the craft work, all the vending.
So what was the government's argument? First, the parish council, municipal council.
Well, the municipal council, collusion with all the stakeholders.
They had a lawyer. There was a lawyer for the municipal council.
Government lawyers in there. Yes.
The parish. Who were the lawyers representing the government?
I don't know their names, right?
But because remember, this is public knowledge. Because hold on. And you getting no problem saying who the names are, because you're talking. I don't ask you the private lawyers that I'm asking who representing the parish council and who representing the Jamaica National Heritage Trust. And it's not about them. It is just for transparency.
Yeah, and I'm gonna apologize because I don't have their name. It's a bunch of attorneys, right? But
how many lawyers were in court?
I would say there's probably 8 lawyers that sit on government and private interest side.
And did you recognize any of them?
Yes, I do.
You don't want to say who they were?
I can say it as long as it's okay to say that.
What would be? What's your reticence?
No, Jamaica is everything they run for defamation and calling up them name and all kinds of things. All right.
Defamation and that.
The most prominent attorney that I recognize in the Blue Lagoon was Lloyd Barnett. Constitutional scholar in Jamaica. All right?
He was representing you. He was representing Jabem?
No. He's representing one of the private interests.
The constitutional lawyer?
Yes.
On the Constitutional Reform Committee?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I mean, you know.
I have to take a break. I'm so sorry. I cannot manage that. Korea, specializing in general servicing, diagnostic checks, transmission flush, and injector cleaning. Call 876-919-6107 or 876-423-5154. I do not know how to do any of these things. What is transmission flush and injector cleaning, by the way? And I've been driving for 30 odd years now. Anyway, but Dr. Taylor,
you know, I mean, Kabu,
I'm trying to come to terms. All right, so who represent? You don't know who represented the Jamaica National Heritage Trust?
No, so there
Can
are
you text somebody and ask
there's
them?
a couple of law firms, right? I mean, Samuda Johnston, law firm was there. You know, Barrett Cooper Simit was there. All right, Hart, Moorhead, Fata. I mean, those big law firms. You know, who they'll send a cadre of attorneys sometimes. Different ones, but you know those big law firms. Are
Against Jabem's, the people's lawyer, who would have been Marcus Goff.
Well, you know, I mean, it would have good if, you know, the government lawyers, they were standing on our side, you know, but the power dynamics, you know, I mean, is what we're getting at here is how, you know, the people depend on them own. We depend on our own in them fight here. All right. And, you know, we have been doing this thing for 3 years right now, you know what I mean? And it's one outside of Dr. Marcus Goff, you know, it's one attorney has raised them hand, you know what I mean, for coming in and help, right? You know what I mean? One attorney. And I mean, you know, I mean, for transparency, we can't call him name, you know what I mean, is you small, raise him and to, you know, to offer if he can help us, you know what I mean? But, you know, we the people are on our own fighting against, you know, a system that what that wants to do is to privatize the entire coastline of Jamaica. And this is not a joke thing.
And when it's a coastline, we're talking about land and sea and river. We're not just talking about the beach, because when you say the beach, people get it all twisted. We're talking about land, and we're talking about the ocean, we're talking about the sea. So you're talking about the fish where you get out of the water, you're talking about your ability to access the land that, or for security reasons, we don't even have access to the coastline. So even when you get to the point of recreation, obviously it's a big point. But before that, survival, it comes first, doesn't it?
Survival, man. Our communities depend on these spaces. You know what I mean? Yesterday we had a meeting up in Steertown, and two of my elders who are over 75-year-old who, you know, have been blocked from fishing in Mammoth Bay Beach. You know, and we just sit there talking about the stories, right? And sharing our grief by we can look at the sea and we cannot go there. Their entire economic livelihood have been shut down for over 3 years.
We don't have a rich friend who own a helicopter. We just drop. I keep saying this, you know. We need to just drop from the sky and drop into the ocean, because they do not own the ocean.
No, they don't own it. And if Jamaicans really want help, really want to fight this fight with us, we can all protest and walk on these beaches. They can't stop us in numbers, you know. It's just because the groundswell is not there yet. And we're preaching, you know, and we're sending out the message to let them know. Within this week alone, they have announced tenure. I mean, within the last 2 months, a beach in St. Elizabeth called Font Hill has been, you know, advertised for privatization and development. Old Man Beach in Montego Bay, Walter Fletcher. I mean, they have announced Lost Pearly Beach to be also now privatized. They're asking for tenure for Duns River, all right, and Green Grotto. So within the space of 2 months out there, I mean, 6 spaces, right, are going to be lost to private interests. Is going to control it, charge you what they want to charge you for go up on these beaches. All right? And all the ones them who operate in these spaces, they're going to be displaced. I was in Portland yesterday, and I went to Sanko Bay. And the brethren them down in Sanko Bay was been operating that space for a very long time. TPDCO, Marine Police, all right, come inside of the space. And the brethren them, some of them move from Blue Lagoon because, you know what I mean, they have to feed them family. They can't do no more rafting in there. They can't carry tourists in them boat go out in the sea. All right? They can't do any of that because they have been shut down. So everywhere where poor people go and set up a thing and try to feed them family, them get shut down.
Let me ask you this. Let's go back to the court case. All these lawyers and government agencies against the people in court, people fighting for access to the Blue Lagoon, government agencies against the people in court. The Jamaica National Heritage Trust falls under the Ministry of Culture, which is headed by Babsy Grange. The municipal corporation falls under the Ministry of Public.
Is it local government?
Local government, which is headed by Desmond Mackenzie. This is very serious. This is very, very serious. What was the outcome in court?
So there's a procedural step that was not completed, and we have rectified that since. And so the judge dismissed the case and said we should refile the case. And so it's a justice delayed after 2 years, right? We are a bit disappointed, but we know how the struggle goes. Nothing is lost other than a reset. And the case has already been refiled, and we're just waiting on another court date. So it's just a procedural matter that we had to really deal with in the court on Thursday, and we'll sort that out.
On what grounds? I hear you, and I know our listeners heard you, but I think me and the listeners have the same questions. On what grounds did the Jamaica National Heritage Trust come up against the people, JABEM, in court? Who? On what were they saying?
All right. So whenever something is designated as a national monument, right, the operation falls under the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, which means that they have, regulation over the parochial road and what goes on in there in partnership with the parish council. So whatever is done within the Blue Lagoon cannot happen without the Jamaica National Heritage Trust. So when the road was closed, the road had to be closed by permission of the Jamaica National Heritage Trust.
And if the road is to be opened,
they have to be part of the opening of the road. However, we have been trying to ascertain, right, who is maintaining the closure of the road. You had a lengthy discussion last week, and we still cannot find out who is actually paying for the security guard, why there's barricades still there, and why the public is rerouted.
What do you mean you don't know who is paying for the security guard? And I know I heard that last week from the PNP spokesperson on culture and so on. He was saying, Deputy spokesperson Colin Bell, he was saying that he heard the municipal council, the head of the municipal council, saying that he doesn't know. What, he didn't know who was paying? Or he refused to say who was paying?
No, he did not know. I mean, there's the interview up on Nationwide Radio, right? And they said they don't know. And I mean, the security guard is still there. There's a security post right there. There's barricades there.
So as far as you have been in the island and the thing is in court, do we still not know who is paying for the security guard?
Jamaica, when you go to the Blue Lagoon, there's a security post there. There's barrier at the gate. We, JABEM, the Blue Lagoon Alliance, all the people in and around Fairy Hill, Zion Hill, Drapers, you name it, we do not know who is financing the security guards that hold that road hostage. That road that leads right into the Blue Lagoon. And if anybody knows who paying them, who's maintaining that, then they are free to send that information to info.jabem@gmail.com. All right? You can send us that information and we can act on it.
Can you get this through Access to Information, through the Access to Information Act?
No, Access to Information goes to private, goes to government. This is a private entity. We have written several ATI requests.
But the road, at least to say, the parochial road is still government road.
It's still government road, right? And we have written.
Is the security guard on the because we go out there, so we ask the question when we know the answer to, but our listeners need to know. The security guards are placed on the parochial road. They are blocking the parochial road.
Yes.
Right, which is government road, which is parish council road,
Yes.
municipal council.
Yes.
So this is why access to information has to kick in, because the parish council knows.
Yeah, we're drilling down, Kabu. We're drilling down. We have written to. The last one came in from, I think, is it the local government who said they're not the one maintaining the closure of the road. So we have written to JNHT.
But how can the local government allow other outsiders to maintain the closure of the local government road?
How can they? Because, I mean, listen, government do what they want. It's government badness. I mean, they are hiding behind something that we are trying to understand. Right? We're trying to understand.
Well, I asked some questions here last week. Is as far as Jabem knows, or is there political interference?
I mean, is there political interference? Interference. What is not possible in this country? I mean, what is it not possible? How you close parochial road, right, without, the political class knowing about it? As I mentioned, all Fort be locked down, Man be a road locked down. I mean, those were parochial road. That road had to be transferred to whatever association that sets itself up in those spaces. They have homeowners association that are constructed where all these parochial roads are, that leads, to the sea. So therefore,
we're talking about
political class must be involved when a road moves from public to private. So it must be happening. If you ask clearly, it is happening. Now, who is responsible for it? I don't know, and I'm not going to call any names because we don't have hard evidence on it. But it cannot happen. It cannot happen without the political class involvement, and it cannot happen without, the bourgeoisie, the oligarchs, the rich and the wealthy want it to happen, because clearly the people of Jamaica do not want that. So it's the whole power of the coastline is getting out of the hands of the Jamaican people. And I want the country to know that if this space around the coastline of Jamaica constitute, 35% of the economy of the country, and over 50% of the foreign exchanges is around the coast, then the wealth of the nation, as far as how the economy of Jamaica is constructed right now, sits on the coastline, and we are not participating in it at its fullest. So the wealth is being transferred to the private entity, to private interests, and the government is facilitating that. That is why we are asking that the entire 494 miles around the country becomes public land, and that these lands are placed in trust, because once you sell the land, you give away the wealth of the country, and a big chunk of the economy is based in this space. So we're going back to the plantation system if we did ever left.
And that is a question. Devon, I'm going to take a break, but I am really, really disheartened, and we don't know how much more disheartened we can be, that this particular issue, the Blue Lagoon, is such a stubborn issue, because they're obviously, the Jamaica National Heritage Trust must have some information. If not the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, then the Ministry of Culture, the Minister of Culture. This has been going on for so long that I think that the Minister of Culture and the Minister of Local Government, they've got an obligation to say to the people of Jamaica, the people of Portland and the people of Jamaica, what is happening at the Blue Lagoon, and why are they represented in court against the people? Are you sure they are represented against the people, or did they just turn up to?
They are defendants. They are defendants. So we are the plaintiff, they are defendants, so they are against. Otherwise, those two government entities have the power. All right? Now, I could say this, that the Beach Control Act of 1956 gives the minister in charge the power to use the Commission of Police to take any lands that they see fit.
The Commission of Police or the Commission of Lands?
No.
The Commission of Police?
Listen to me, Kabu. This document, we're asking for the repeal and replacement of the document, because the document That document is militaristic. That document is colonial, is discriminatory. It concentrates power in only one individual.
Hold that point, because when I come back, I want you to pick up to say what the document gives, the power that it gives to the Commissioner of Police. Let me take a quick break. 8 minutes to kind of put things in perspective. So the Beach Control Act is where we left off, where you said that this act gives enormous power to the minister with responsibility to engage the Commissioner of Police.
Yes, and could clear any road to take any land in the interest of the public. And that has not been done. While, you were on break, I was able to pull up one of the ATIs that we submitted to the Ministry of Local Government and Community. Ministry of Local Government and Community. I mean, in there, we asked for who's closing that road. The response, I'm going to read it on here. In response to your access to information requests for any meeting minutes or documents relating to the matter of employment of a private security company to close the parochial road known as the Blue Hole Road in Drapers, Portland, the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development has conducted thorough research but did not locate any relevant documents. Right? So we have been digging, trying to figure out the systems and the structures in place that are oppressing the Jamaican people, maintaining closure there, routing us over private land to access the lagoon. We are it's all been blocked. We don't have the clear idea as to who is. We have a lot of suspicion, and until we can figure it out, we cannot publicly say it's this organization and these are the people. But what is really transpiring in Jamaica right now, all right, is the transfer of the wealth of the country to the private class, the entire coastline. And it worries me, and it worries Jamaica, right? Because we have laws in place that predates the constitution of the country. The Beach Control Act is a 1956 law. It's protected on a saving clause. It predates the constitution. Therefore, it is superior to the constitution. And it just cannot be changed unless the political class decide to change it. And it is a 69-year-old law. And this law have gone through several different administrations, and none of them changed it. So the people of the country are suffering, right? Not only, from our leisure, but the economic, which is very serious economic justice. And we're seeing, all right, degradation happening along the coastline. The exclusion, this is empowerment. And we're seeing the neoliberalism and the neo-colonialism, where all the multinational corporations are coming in, buying up all these spaces, and further exclusion of the people of the country. And this should concern the nation, because this space is not just economics, right? It's how we use the space for our lives, our livelihood, our meditations, right? The therapeutics of the space, fishing, right? All of these things that are connected, why we live in between waters and we cannot access beaches freely in Jamaica. There's no reason other than that you're saying we're unworthy and we can't share the same beaches as tourists. I mean, how can we, the people, sit by and let that happen?
This also, as you talk about the private sector, there's also another element to this, which is the black elite. The black boule, the black elite in Jamaica, the Jamaican elite, has somehow sanctioned and signed off on this also, because if you check their social media pages, where they're on the social media, and if you check the things that interest them, when they go to the beach, they are alone on the beach, and you can look for miles and you don't see anybody. And they post these pictures, and they have their friends and families coming from overseas, and they post these things online. So there's a class structure, a rigid class structure in Jamaica that continues to hold oppression in place. How we dismantle this is going to be up to us.
Yeah.
Now, so the question is, why do you think that the people of Portland, and I'm saying Portland now because I know Jabem is in almost every parish. We've done that too, where you go to every parish. But why do you think the people of Portland, in this particular case, have not risen up, that their voices are mute, more or less. Why do you think there's no interest apparently no interest from the people of Portland?
I would not say that there's no interest for the people of Portland, right? I mean, there's a lot of education that needs to be done within communities, and we're doing that now. Because a lot of people, they feel powerless. All right, and they're powerless because just the way our governance is structured in Jamaica. One of the best things they could have done, all right, for this whole constitutional process is just change the way our government is structured so the people have a voice. The people don't have a voice. So the people cannot directly influence, systems that oppress them. All right, there is fear and there's perceived fear. I witnessed that firsthand in Sanko Bay yesterday, all right, when police shake down and harass a brethren right before my eyes in a way that the brethren was rattled, that he cannot be seen in the water again in our boat, all right?
Yes, sir.
And the threat of arrest, all right? So when the youths them go in these spaces, the militarized class that is existing right now, space is threatening them. The youth them fear. I know, and I have concern. I want to put this out there publicly right now for my Blue Lagoon Alliance members. I don't want no state actors and no private actors pressure them, because they are now joined fully in the fight to protect the Blue Lagoon, not only for themselves, but for Jamaica. The Blue Lagoon Alliance is part of this fight right now. And they have been operating in there for many, many generations. And we have asked Jamaica to help us to protect them and their livelihood, because fire is going to come at them, because now they stand up against the system of oppression that push them out and promise them things in 6 months and they never see it. And if we never stand up, they would have never seen it down there. They're all licensed and registered to do their rafting and waiting, and they're not unleashing that in the space.
How can we get the Beach Control Act repealed and replaced? How that?
Political pressure. You have to come in with what's going on. Jabem is leading this fight. You have to join up, sign up. When we have a marches, them. Come out to the marches, them. Right? Tell your MPs them who you have vote for, who are run now in at this time, and I tell yourself you vote for them. Tell them you want this act to go away, and you want an act that comes into place that gives us moral and legal rights to all the beaches in Jamaica. All right? And we need to make them public lands. You, the people out there, must tell your political representatives, them, your MP, them, that they need to move this law out the way right now. So we have to organize and centralize and join up in the fight. That's what we want the people to do, because it must be done through the administration. So one of the political parties, them, must do it, but we have to force them to do it. Let us join forces. Let us unite and get this done.
And this is the best time, because election near. Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor, Dr. Devon Taylor. Listen up. 223-5154. All right, we're trying to get our next guest online, and I'm not sure. We're having just a little bit of issue, as we are wont to do. Dr. Oluwatomi Layo, she's going to pronounce that properly for me, Biwaji Edokpa, and just Dr. Tomi Biwaji, highly experienced pediatrician with a passion for providing comprehensive medical care for children and adolescents. Having trained at the University of the West Indies, she holds a Bachelor of Medicine and a Bachelor of Surgery MBBS degree and a Doctor of Medicine in Pediatrics. With over a decade of experience in the medical field, Dr. Edokpa has developed a deep interest in several areas of pediatrics. She specializes in cardiology, developmental pediatrics, pediatric dermatology, breastfeeding, sleep training, and picky eating. Her services range from prenatal visits to delivery attendance, breastfeeding support, well child visits, sick child visits, etc., and so much more. She has a holistic approach to patient care, and she is also now based in the United Kingdom, where in addition to being a pediatrician, she is now also studying psychology. We are trying to get her up on the board. Let me see if she's hearing.
Kabu.
All right, I'm hearing her very well, actually.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yes, just check and see if you're hearing her outside. Dr. Tommy, I'm not quite sure what's happening, but we weren't hearing you on cue, but we're hearing you without cue. So that to me is good enough. I think I'll hear in a while though. So how are you doing?
Okay, perfect. Good morning. I am fine, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I just want to clarify something. I'm actually studying clinical dermatology.
Oh, goodness. There you are, because it's not even there. Listen, you're very low. I'm not quite sure why, because I have you turned up as high as possible. So if you could speak up, are we hearing okay? Just speak up a little bit for me, Tommy. We'll be okay. Right. It's just very low, and I'm not sure. It seems as if we're having a problem with our system, but we should be able to. Yeah. I'm also getting a feedback from her now. Did you put it on hands-free?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's much better. That's much better.
Okay.
All right. So let me just let our listeners know that Dr. Tommy is a daughter of Dr. Tunde Biwaji. Dr. Tunde Biwaji is a brother to this program. We know him very well. You all know him very well. So let us welcome our little sister, Dr. Tommy Biwaji, who will be talking to us about so much more. I didn't get a chance to publicly said to you, but I did speak to my dad, that condolences on the passing of your mom and the work that you're all doing, because now you have built a center literally to honor her. And that center is providing services to so many across Jamaica. Tell us a little bit about the center before we go on.
Okay, so our medical center is called Bola Health. We started it, as you said, in honor of the matriarch of our family. And, matriarch is very important in our context as Nigerians. And she took that role very seriously. She was a mother to everyone. So anyone that met her in her role as a senior director in the Jamaica Library Service, she brought them into the family. And she always had this dream of us each using our unique gift to start a medical center. And, when she passed, we said, this is the time that we need to start this center in her honor. And our goal, and, based on our tagline, is that it takes a village. So we are saying Jamaica is culturally multi-generational families living together, supporting each other, and we want to be the village that supports that community.
And what services are offered there, and where exactly is it, or can we access those services?
Okay, so we currently offer pediatrics, pediatric home visits, play therapy, counseling for adults and children, applied behavioral analysis. Our goal with those services is that a lot of childcare is spread around, especially Kingston. Families have difficulty accessing one place that offers all these services. And so we wanted that to be available here in our medical home. Mm-hmm. We also offer nutritionist, a lactation specialist, dentistry, general medicine, general practice, immunizations, pediatric surgery. We have a sports medicine service, including a sports medicine physician, sports psychology, physiotherapy, general and pediatric orthopedics, and we have dermatology as well. Mm-hmm. Especially sports medicine is dear to my heart. Mm-hmm. Because we have a lot of student athletes who, they don't know their health status. They don't know their risk of cardiovascular disease. They don't know if anything could happen to them on the field. Mm-hmm. And so we have started this service so that if you have a student athlete who keeps having injuries, who may have a family history of cardiovascular disease, you can send them to us and we'll be able to screen them and make sure that we're optimizing their care for when they go out on the field, whether it's track and field, football, table tennis, any one of those things, and also prevent them from getting repeated injuries and get them in the right frame of mind for when they go back out to perform.
That's brilliant. That's really good. And where are you based? Where can we find you?
Yes, so we are located so a way I say it just to make persons remember more readily, beside Megamart, across from the gas station that's beside Megamart, that's where we are. So we're Unit A1 upstairs, the new complex called the Waterloo. It's 34 Upper Waterloo Road, Kingston, and they can call us or WhatsApp us at 876-807-9283. Or they can connect to us through Facebook, Instagram threads at Bola Health. And our website has all the information at bolahealth.com.
Bola Health, and that's B-O-L-A Health.
B-O-L-A Health.com.
All right.
That's correct.
Hold for me, Dr. Tommy. I'll take a quick break. Dr. Tommy, pronounce your full name for me, please.
Yes. So it's Olua Tomilayo.
Olua
Bewaji.
Tomilayo.
Bewaji Edopa.
Edopa. All right, thank you. What a beautiful name. I'm sure somebody's going to want it. So say it again, please. All of it together.
Olua Tomilayo Bewaji Edopa.
What does it mean, Olua Tomi Laji? Is it Laji? Well, let me read it. Let me read it.
Olua Tomilayo.
I shouldn't be doing this now, and I'm going to get a lot of cussing for it. I really love it. I love this name. What does it mean?
Yeah, so we're very big on names having meaning. A lot of how we name goes back culturally in terms of representing what happened at the time when the person was born, what the parents and the grandparents are thinking based on the individual. And so my name means God is enough joy for me.
There you go. Listen, we're going to put it on because people are going to call us. A lot of babies are going to be named after you. All right, doctor. And we say Dr. Tommy for short. So
yes, so Tommy is fine.
Yeah, brilliant. You're in the UK now, and you studied before at the University of the West Indies, and now you're in the UK. Tell us a little bit about that, your studies at UWI, and then why you've gone on to another field, although it's medicine still.
Yes, so I am a consultant pediatrician. I do have a passion for working with children, and I believe every child has been given a God-given gift that could impact the world around them if we can only optimize their abilities. Part of that, and something that I've seen operating as a pediatrician in Jamaica, is that we really need to build out a pediatric medicine, a pediatric dermatology service. We currently don't have any pediatric dermatologists, but we do have a number of dermatologists that are excellent at caring for pediatric patients. So, that's what led me to the United Kingdom. I am on my journey to pediatric dermatology. So it's one of the steps. I'm one of the current Chevening scholars. I'm studying at King's College London. It's the St. John's Institute of Dermatology, which has been part of the legacy of dermatology in Jamaica for many years.
Brilliant. And one of the things that I know concerns you in a very serious way is systemic inequalities and biases affecting the development of black children, in particular in terms of their physical and mental health. But before we go there, and I want you to speak to that, I know that when we spoke, I have to talk about this because there's some synchronicity in what we're doing. So when we spoke a few weeks ago and we decided that we're going to be having this talk today, and one of this will be looking at the development of the black child, we did not know at the time. I know that Baba Amos Nelson, Dr. Amos Wilson, was born in February, but we didn't know when we spoke that his birth date would be February 23. So 84 years to the day. And he's a father, literally, of what we're about to discuss. Pan-African scholar, activist. He's a professor of psychology, of course. His political body of work provides all kinds of veritable black print, if you will, blueprint for the recognition, the explanation, and the solution for black mental trauma, for development and psychology of the black child. And the blueprint, he has a book literally called that, the blueprint for just raising black children generally. So in honor of Baba Amos Wilson, this is what I want to do, is to dedicate this segment of the program to him as we discuss inequalities in the development of the black child. So let's talk about that and your particular interest there, Dr. Tomey. Systemic inequalities in the system and biases affecting the development of the black child. What have you noticed and what are your main concerns?
Yes. So working in the United Kingdom, I have been privileged to be part of the conversations that are already happening about ways in which culture and race can impact healthcare. What I like to describe it as, what happens in the physician visits, it's a dance. So between the culture of the person who's the medical practitioner and the culture of the patient. And the beauty of United Kingdom is just how diverse it is. We say Jamaica out of many one people. And we see the United Kingdom and we have that diversity as well. And often as I'm watching from the outside looking in, I see this dance as clumsy. The physician wants to do the best for the patient. The patient wants to be understood and to understand. And they often step on each other's toes, So something that I am particularly interested in is how do we make healthcare culturally competent? How do we make sure that when someone comes in, whether I am a black physician seeing, a white patient, Asian patient, or I am a white physician that's seeing, here they say black, Asian, and minority ethnic group patient, how do I make sure that I am speaking appropriately to their cultural context in a way that they can then receive the information and they can make it a part of their life? So there's a lot of conversation that's happening now in the UK around that. A lot of research that's being done, as well as funding that's being provided, as well as just, debates that are happening in how can we make healthcare more culturally competent. Because we find actually that when immigrants come to the United Kingdom, they're coming healthier, they're coming younger, and for the first 10 years of being here, they are actually healthier, they're actually younger, and they're accessing healthcare less. So their healthcare needs are less, they're costing the healthcare system less. And the question is, how do we keep that? How do we maintain that?
So what
I think
go ahead.
Yes. I think it boils down to ensuring that we have persons within the healthcare system who understand cultural context. I'll give you an example. It's just a funny one, but a black person, she has her weave in and it's hurting, it's itchy, so she's patting her head. But the nurse who's seeing her says, refer for psychiatric evaluation because she doesn't understand why is this person patting her head over and over as we're speaking. And then, a black nurse comes in, sees the request for psychiatric evaluation. This is a pregnant woman, so this now has implications for not just her, but for the child. And then within a few seconds of seeing what's happening, says, no, she doesn't need a psychiatric evaluation. She's just doing something.
Yes. But Dr. Tomey, this is, I know we laugh and it's funny, but especially within the context of the UK, this is pretty serious because so many black people, women, children, are referred for psychiatric evaluation and sometimes treatment when the problem is, as you're pointing out, cultural.
Right. I've actually seen repeated just they do studies within communities, and they do studies among specific ethnic groups. And repeatedly what they are saying is, when I speak, I am being told I'm being difficult, for those who are Black, and for those who are Asian, they're being told that they're overly anxious. So it's a kind of an implicit bias that is often not recognized by those who are demonstrating it. To the point where here the Marie Curie Institute said, we want help, we need help, we have bias, and we don't even see it. So it's not that there's a complete lack of awareness of the issue. It's just we have to start taking steps to ensure that we are actively addressing it. And these steps have to be measurable. So some of the initiatives that have been started based on a number of incidents that have occurred, maternal mortality rates during pregnancy, newborn mortality rates. There are no measurable, achievable goals. They have committees that are not meeting, or if they meet, it's very infrequently. And there's just no end point. Like, what are we trying to accomplish with all this that has been put in place? So it is very serious. It has significant implications. I mentioned the maternal mortality rate. It's almost 4 times higher for Black persons in the United Kingdom. For Asians, it's almost 2 times higher. And, this is even when we control for other factors, because persons will say, okay, no, they have more illnesses. But even when you control for illnesses, we're still seeing this disproportionate increase in mortality rate.
Do we know why?
So the discussions that are happening are suggesting that it's a lot of the implicit bias, it's a lot of the expectation of difficulty. So, if someone is difficult, you don't want to relate to them, you don't want to go to them. So you're not monitoring them as often.
But do we say implicit bias as opposed to racism? Because we know that one of the most racist countries in the world is England. Is the UK.
So there are reports that are looking at racism and that acknowledge, even within the government, they acknowledge that there is an element of racism there, but they are not able to quantify it. And I understand that it's difficult to say how much of what is happening is racism versus how much of it is just a lack of cultural understanding versus how much of it is just multifactorial. So the end point that they repeatedly come to.
Biwaji, and we're looking at the development of the Black child. We're looking at quite a few issues, though, including implicit bias and racism within the healthcare system and the impact, the quality of care received by Black children and families. That has the impact of that on Black children and families. How does that differ then in where you have structural violence in hospitals and in healthcare systems? Dr. Toomey, say, for example, in Jamaica, where you do not expect racism, but there are still discriminatory factors. What's your finding there, if any, or your own thinking on that?
Within our Jamaican context, some of it boils down to just lack of access to resources. I mean, internationally, Jamaican physicians are recognized as being excellent. Persons readily accept us into their programs. Persons readily accept us into their their hospitals, their private medical centers, because the training in Jamaica really is excellent. And we find overall that Jamaican physicians are very self-sacrificing. There's a lot that we go through from, the beginning of training to the end of training. And even as we continue, it's a life of learning, really. There's just a lot that you go through. But because genuinely the majority of Jamaican physicians are in medicine because they want to serve. And so they will serve to the point of exhaustion. They will serve to the point where they're not spending time with their family. They'll serve to the point where they can't even make their own ends meet. Right? And I think that will impact patient care, because you can't pour from a glass that's empty. So if you yourself are exhausted, you lack resources, your family is not doing well because you just don't have the money to do the things that you'd like to do, it impacts on your overall, it's not just a I can compartmentalize, it's going to impact everything that you do. And we continue to serve and we continue to pour. And sometimes it can come out as, a word that is said that you reflect and you say, maybe I could have said that better. Mm-hmm. I don't think that we particularly look at race when we are caring for patients in Jamaica, but sometimes there is an element of class as well. Mm-hmm. And I say class not because someone is coming from a particular area, so you're going to discriminate against them, but in terms of some of the behavior of the patient towards the physician can be influenced by class. For example, patients also have their own biases. So I remember one day I was post-call, had been at the hospital from 7 in the morning, did duty. The next morning it was now, I think this was 8:30 in the morning, and I was now going for clinic, having, had minimal sleep the night before because I was actively working. And a patient saw me walking down the hall and said, you see, in Pato, see the doctors, how they just stroll in, they don't have a care for anybody, they just come whenever they feel like. And mind you, I had been at work. Yes. This is more than 24 hours at this point. So sometimes some of it is also the bias of the patients, because they also come in with their own expectations. They have a perception that, you're in healthcare in Jamaica, so you're rich, you've never had any difficulties in your life. But I think if any nation can say that they have physicians who represent every aspect of society, Jamaica can say that, because we really do. A lot of the opportunities at the University of the West Indies, as well as, just in partnership with CARICOM. I mean, I know we're not saying CARICOM per se, but the partnership with all the campuses that has enabled us repeatedly to allow persons who don't have the funds to study medicine in Jamaica. I think that has meant that we have a very diverse population of doctors. We have persons who understand the cultural context, because I believe Jamaica has multiple cultural contexts, as well as they understand, the patients in terms of when they speak, in terms of what they're experiencing. And it's a beautiful thing to see. I think we actually are a privileged nation in that we serve a population that truly we represent and that represents us.
Our challenge, therefore, is to fix healthcare, fix a system, because it is what it is in terms of access to healthcare. And we're speaking specifically this morning about children. So I want to segue to that a bit to say, when we talk about whether it's implicit bias or racism, or we talk about discrimination within the system, how are Black children impacted wherever they are by this in terms of healthcare?
Yes. So for children, a big part of the issue internationally is they, for the majority, cannot advocate for themselves. So they're highly dependent on their parents to advocate for them. In the international context, sometimes these parents are first generation, are the first immigrant to the nation, and so they don't speak the language well. So in some cases, the child speaks the language better than the parent, but the child is very young and is unable to really understand what is happening or to express. So in some cases, the child becomes the interpreter. And you can see how that would not work. Within the Jamaican context, we have in some of our facilities a separation of the parent from the child. So this is a child who is now in hospital by themselves. The parents are unable to visit at certain times, or if they're able to visit, they're in a very, tight setting, very close to others. So there's very minimal privacy. And so this will impact on how the child feels in hospital, because it's a very stressful environment. It impacts on the way the child feels about hospitals, because then they develop this fear and almost a very traumatic response to returning to hospital or seeing doctors. And I think that's what we need to address if we're talking about how to optimize healthcare for our children in Jamaica. We need to make it a less overall traumatic experience for them.
How can that be done? Any ideas?
So, I mean, we talk about resources being a challenge. Ideally, you want parents to be able to stay, or at least have a representative that's staying with the child. You want privacy. Everyone should be able to speak freely, to be able to embrace their child, should be able to, walk with their child if a child is safe to do that. Green spaces. There are some hospitals internationally that are very good at that. I mean, we have nature. That is our benefit. By default, it's there. But curating the space so that it's safe for children with different disability levels to actually experience the green spaces, as well as, curating the space so that it's peaceful, not just nature, but peaceful. So things like water fountains, gentle music. I know I'm speaking about this ideal world, but we're talking about how do we make it better for children?
Yes, and it does make a lot of sense because I've been into some of these spaces and, it really is traumatic and just visually. So I get the point you're making, and even if it is the ideal, this is what we should be striving for. In terms of the, you mentioned resources before, and we do have a situation on the island where a lot of our doctors are going overseas and for work as opposed to study, which we expect you to do and come back. Please come back. But
I'll be back.
Yes. But we do have this brain drain on the hospitals, and this obviously would be affecting pediatrics. Talk to me about that. What have you noticed, and how can? Well, it's a political question, but what have you noticed, and how can we make that better? How can we change that status quo?
I think this is a conversation that's already happening. There's a lot of discussion between the heads of the different medical organizations and the Ministry of Health and its representatives about how do we make healthcare better for the people and also make it better for the physicians. So I think we're going to see a lot more coming out about recommendations. I think those groups have been very good about making recommendations. It's just a question of whether we're able to funnel resources in the direction that's necessary.
In terms of the differences, and this is something you mentioned at the very top of this discussion, in the not just treatment but the literature, the research, and who the research is being done for, and how black people are treated as opposed to people with other skin, if you will, skin color and skin type and hair type, you name it, just generally. What within the system, and we know that there are two books, for example. One talk about medical apartheid. There's another that talks about, how the globalization of the European psyche has been literally pushed onto the medical, medical field within the developing countries. I want you to break that down for me in terms of what is out there, how that is changing, not just in conversation, but tangibly. Are we seeing changes in this regard?
It will depend on, I guess, which country you're actually living in. For example, persons living in the United Kingdom, the challenge they may face is, this represents, I think, both United States and United Kingdom, the challenges with trusting healthcare professionals. And I think it comes from a place of being burnt in the past, being misunderstood or misunderstanding. And so there is an intentionality about increasing the number of, they say Black, Asian, and minority ethnic doctors. There is an intentionality. They speak about diversity and equality, about making sure that we have a population of physicians and nurses and healthcare workers that's representative of the persons who are coming to access healthcare services, especially within communities that are more diverse. But even within that, they find that those practitioners themselves feel discriminated against within their workplace. They are concerned about lack of ability to progress. They're underrepresented at the leadership levels. So it's almost as if there's a sense that there's a cap in what you can do, even though you're, let's say you have a seat at the table. So I think we've started to see a point where persons are recognizing that a lot of studies have been done in majority white populations. Some of them don't even declare, the exact breakdown of who they're representing. But these studies have gone on to become generalized. And, something you learn in medicine, which is a privilege we have, is we learn how to look at research papers and to look at whether it actually is applicable to your particular population or not. And I think these are essential skills that would be beneficial for all of us, not just physicians, because you see persons on social media who are quoting things that they've also heard quoted from somebody else, and we have almost this Chinese telephone going on of information that leads to things like the measles outbreak in Texas. So we have persons not accessing healthcare that is evidence-based, is applicable to our population, but we're not accessing it out of this fear or this sense that, can I really trust healthcare providers?
But we also have to ask, Dr. Tuma, can we trust the media? Can we trust how the media reports? Because measles outbreaks are happening all the time, but it's important for the liberal media to report on this right now, especially because you have RFK, who has been named Secretary of Health and all of that. So there's also another element, speaking as a journalist, that feeds back into what the media reports on, what it chooses to report on. There's an outbreak now, for example, in China, they're saying of coronavirus, and all of this is happening only because there's another political context to it. So we find ourselves as African people, black people, on the back foot, literally, accessing not just health but also accessing information. And I think how critical from your perspective is information I was going to say truth, but even that gets lost. But how critical is information to how we view what's happening to us as a people generally when it comes to our health care?
Right. So, as you said, I think it's important for us to actually be able to critically look at the information we're getting, no matter where it's coming from. I completely agree with you on that, because there is intentionality about what persons report and how they report it. So one thing I always say to persons is have a medical home. Have a place that you trust, a physician that you trust, someone that you can speak with, that they can explain things to you, because there are some things that as someone who's not in healthcare, you just won't understand. So, and I think a lot of it as well is because we are so close to the United States, we are used to putting things or framing the way we see things based on what's happening in the United States. But we need to broaden our focus, I think, as a nation, and look at what's happening around the world, look at what's happening globally. Because if we become too focused on one nation, then we lose our own culture, we lose our own sense of self. I think that would be a tragedy, because we have persons all around the world who want to be Jamaican, and here we are trying to be somebody else.
Yeah, and this was so critical during COVID, I think, because you had, I had friends running up and down in Nigeria and Ghana during COVID, and Ethiopia and other places. I mean, continental Africans were moving about their business as if nothing was happening around them, and they didn't die in the drove that we saw the reports coming out of Italy and the UK and the US and so on. So it really made you wonder about and I think it's something that you talked about earlier too, when we talk about race is important, not just for understanding how how we talk to each other. But it's important when it comes to whether or not we are prone to the same diseases. This is a conversation that I think we really should be having. A lot of people look at this, though, as being racist. You don't want to go there. But isn't this really important to be having this conversation in a wider space?
I remember saying in one of our post-clinic discussions here that it would be beautiful if we were to learn from each other. So there's a lot that we in Jamaica know about healthcare, healthcare for Black persons, for ethnically mixed persons, because that is our majority. This is what we see. There's a lot of information that persons in India would have about treating persons who are Indian majority. And the beauty would be if we had this sharing of information. There's an example where a particular condition was affecting some of the Indian population, and then they came to the UK, and the doctors were now trying to figure out how to treat, but this information was already available in India, if you get what I mean. So I think we're at a point as a global community where, yes, sharing of information does take place in terms of conferences, in terms of persons traveling to study in different countries, which I'm benefiting from now. But I think being intentional about that sharing of what is happening and how to treat and how to investigate specific to
online. Dr. Tommy, before we go on to the language of healthcare, which I know is something you're also concerned about, in terms of Jamaican children, I know you've been in the system as a consultant. What are some of the major healthcare issues that Jamaica's children face?
I think one thing I want to bring out for the purposes of the interview, I think that we don't discuss often enough, is just if you're concerned about your child's development, then bring the child to your pediatrician. I think a lot of healthcare for children takes place in general practice, in public healthcare, but we need to spend more time actually going to the pediatrician, having them assess our child's developmental level, and then they are the ones that will refer on for additional investigation, additional support systems as needed. I think a lot of the time, especially with speech, we have persons who will just say, everybody in the family takes time to speak. But this is one of the things that we look at and say, okay, do we need to do additional screening? Do we need to have them do special tests? And when I say tests, these are things that are very child friendly. So we play with them, we talk with them, things that you would look at it and you wouldn't realize that an entire assessment is happening. But don't just sit down and watch your child and say something seems wrong. If you are concerned, then it is concerning. That's what I believe. Because you're not going to have any peace about the matter.
And what about the school?
And you very well may be correct.
And what about schools in this regard? Sometimes things are picked up in schools, learning disabilities, stuff like that. But it seems to me, and I've been asking questions about this, that there isn't anything necessarily in place to refer on the child. I know micro practice had something before, and they probably still have that. But it seems as if a child can fly under the radar. The teacher might observe something, but nothing is said or done. What do you think should be the role of the school in this regard?
Okay. I find that our schools are actually very good about identifying things. You kind of get a sense for children when you've worked with them for so long. And so they will pick up on these things, and they will actually refer the parent to the pediatrician. As you said, there is microcare. Sometimes this process takes time. So that is why I say, once you have a concern, once you recognize that things may not be going as they should, or this particular child is not like every other child I see in the community or in the class, or my other children, start the process. Because the sooner you start the process, we find that early intervention makes a big difference. And yes, we have limitations in terms of support services. Some of the great initiatives that the ministry has put in place is having shadows for students in school. That's someone who helps them to one, to be able to focus in class, but also helps them with their the work that they're doing, and is a one-on-one guide to support that person. And that is something that you can apply for once you have gone through the process of having your child assessed, of establishing any necessary diagnosis. You know, these are services that you can access.
You talked about speech just now, but for the parent who's listening, and obviously this is people are learning as we talk, so it's always good. What else can you look for to say, okay, so let me check this out? Because you talked about speech, that sometimes you notice the child is not speaking, and you say, well, you know, her great-great-grandmother never talked till late. But you're saying, no, don't wait. Check, because it might be something else. What are some of the other things that you could look out for?
So we look at milestones in terms of gross motor. So when did the child sit up? When did the child walk? Fine motor, how is the child holding things? How is the child using the fingers? Language, which is where we talk about what are they understanding and what are they expressing, as well as social. So in terms of gross motor, a big one for us is a lot of Jamaican children walk early. So if you realize that your child is getting to 15 months and not walking, then usually in our population, that's cause for further investigation. In terms of fine motor, if you find that they're not able to, do the simple things, hold their bottle, hold the crayon, if they're not coloring, I mean, you know how children color. It's going to be the zigzag, and then eventually it becomes circular until by 3 they're able to draw the circle for you. But if they're not doing any of that, then definitely take them to the pediatrician. If they are understanding you but they're not communicating back to you, or if they are not understanding what you're saying, this is a 2-year-old, you tell them to pick up the shoe, close the door, they're not understanding, definitely take them to see their pediatrician. And if socially you just realize that they're not actually interacting with other children, your child has got to 3 years old and other children just seem like objects that they move around, or they, push away, or they're not responding to you. There's that back and forth is not happening, that looking at each other for, yes, children look for affirmation. So looking for affirmation, pointing out things that are exciting, then definitely you should take your child to see their pediatrician for assessment as well.
And breastfeeding, let me look at that quickly. I'm of the opinion that Jamaican women, up until a few years ago, were pretty good at breastfeeding, understood it. The message seemed to have gone out pretty well through the advertising and otherwise. But your own perspective on this, are we changing? Have you seen any cultural shift, considering that we are now consuming American culture?
I think I've definitely observed that interplay of Jamaican culture on breastfeeding and American culture of breastfeeding. And I think part of it is just really Jamaicans are international people. We go everywhere. So there will always be that variation in terms of belief, in terms of practices based on experiences. We all have lived experiences that impact and guide the way we behave. The beautiful thing about breastfeeding is that, it's such a benefit to our children. And I don't know the percentage of mothers who breastfeed in Jamaica, but it's still, for us, it has not yet become something that we just don't do. Culturally, I think breastfeeding is normal. Formula feeding is normal. Making sure children are healthy is normal. So we have that advantage in our particular cultural context. We're very good at making sure we feed up the picnic. And another advantage we have is that majority of us do have community. We have an auntie we can go to, grandparent you can go to. And the only thing I would caution is in 2 parts. One, if you're having difficulty, there are lactation specialists. Bola Health has a lactation specialist. You don't need to suffer through the breastfeeding experience. And if you're not able to breastfeed, it does not mean that you are any less than as a mother, and it does not mean that you failed in any way. Your goal for your child is always going to be, how do I take care of my child to the best of my ability? And there are support services, whether you can't access, if you're not able to breastfeed and you can't access formula, there are support services. Speak to your physicians. We can help.
Well, Dr. Tommy, this was our part one and our introductory interview with you. I know you're going to come in in a few months' time, and you have promised that you'll come in the studio and you'll be a consultant pediatrician for the day. So we'll just put aside at least 3 hours and have our listeners call. And we'll open the phone lines and have our listeners call in. So we're working on that date when you come in to be in studio. All the best with your studies, and thank you so much. Looking forward to having you in studio when you come in.
Yes, one thing I would like to say though, for Jamaicans in the diaspora, Jamaicans in Jamaica, don't be afraid to advocate for your health. Ask questions, get clarity, be respectful. Have somebody else there with you just in case you're missing something. And to be honest, Bola Health is open from 9 to 10 p.m. If you're having any issues, you can come to Bola Health. We'll be your medical home, and we'll make sure we coordinate care across all your medical professionals in Jamaica and overseas.
That's good news. Thank you so much. See you soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, Dr. Bola Biwaji there. And as I said earlier, she'll be in studio in short order. We'll tell you when she's coming in. And one of the things we'll do, ensure that when she comes in, she is indeed our consultant pediatrician. She'll be taking your telephone calls about your children, your children's health, your maternal health. And that will be pretty soon. We take a break. We have been paying attention both nationally, locally, and globally, looking through our Pan-African and geopolitical lenses. I know that for many, things seem a bit chaotic right now, and especially because so many of us are glued to the international news, especially that coming out of the United States. Already happened. And this is where we can be caught on the back foot, waiting for this thing to happen. The thing is that this thing has already happened. The only thing that's left is for it to be rolled out, and it is being rolled out even as we speak, little by little. So, whether you want to look at Project 2025 or not, it is still being rolled out. 30 odd % of Project 2025 has already been rolled out. I think it's about 35%. The actors in the background, Peter Thiel, for example, is critical to what is happening. We know we're focused on, because they want us to focus on Elon Musk as one of the transhumanists. But of course, yes, focus on Elon if you want, but do not miss the bigger picture, because he's operating up front. But there is a cabal that's operating in the background who really don't like the upfront business, and they're into this dark enlightenment and this technocracy and transhumanism. We have spoken a lot about that. They reject a lot of the values that we have come to know. They are elitist. They talk about meritocratic principles. They talk about organization and efficiency. We see at the World Economic Forum, one of the things that they said very clearly the year before and this time around was organization and efficiency. That was a theme that was played over and over and over and over again. We saw that in the US's Doge. We're hearing that coming out of the United Kingdom in many different ways. They haven't got there yet, but this is what they are driving Keir Starmer his back against the wall on. And Donald Trump's acknowledgement of Nigel Farage last night, for example. I think it was last night in his speech that he called out Nigel Farage, and the battle that we see, Kemi Badenoch or Badenoch, somebody's going to correct me. All all of that is connected. The election in Germany today, I don't even know who win, but it doesn't even matter who's going to win the election in Germany. What matters is that the party that's coming second, and but I don't think she'll win, but she'll come a strong second, is going to have much more power. That's connected. The Afrikaners rising up in South Africa, the Lobito corridor in between Congo and Angola. The fact that the President of the United States, when he stands up, he speaks loudly about Congo. He talks about Congo. The fact that the news coming out of the Congo is so pervasive now. Everything that's happening in the Congo now has been happening in the Congo for many, 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 many years. Nothing has changed. Everything that's happening. Why are we getting more reporting on the Congo? It is because they're about to move in. And however they're going to move in, it's going to facilitate them the Lobito corridor to a greater extent, but also to take that Cold War between themselves and China to the continent of Africa in a more serious way. Remember, China is situated the China settler colonialism in the entire world on the Angola model. That's the reason for that. Angola, it's the same region. So, that whole discussion about Panama, the whole thing, it's all connected, every single bit of it. And in the background we are missing what's happening in the background. And this is a point I'm trying to make, that we can focus on all of this and they just have us like, it's a hypnotist, they just have us just talking about all of these little things, whether or not the Pope is going to die, and if the Pope is dying, and who in order and who in line. It's all connected, every single bit of it. But they're not talking about everything else that's happening in the background. They're not telling you that 35%. It's just 30 days into this new presidency, and already 35% of Project 2025 has been implemented. They're not telling us about the gains and the strides they're making in transhumanism. There's a fascination with transhumanism, and every single one of the actors who are part of this fascinating cabal are now involved in the background. They are another part of that has to do with the Palantir, and Palantir is Peter Thiel. We're going to need to have a good look at that, because that is also in the background. It's playing in the background, but it is all connected, and it is more than connected. It is connecting everything. So it's a convergence of the digital technologies that is allowing this connectivity. Everything is being centralized, being connected, and then you ask yourself, where are you in all of that? So we come back to our own spaces, our own places, our own existence. I cannot underscore enough how important it is for us to take agriculture seriously. Agriculture to include the land, the water, the plant, the fauna, the flora, the food we are putting on the earth. All of that, I can't underscore how important it is. You might have noticed already that if egg short for them, then egg short for we. How come they have a problem, a shortage of egg in Europe and the United States and so on, and we about to, and you tell we say we're going to have shortage of egg in Jamaica? What we come and foul them there? What we come and foul them there? What happened to the come and foul them? And not only that, we have the goat them Lego all over the place. And the goat them... There is just a don't care, not care what is happening in the world attitude among us as a people, that we have to get out of that. We need to look to the land, look to the farm, look to our farm animals, look to how we're going to feed ourselves and our children, because we cannot afford the things in the supermarket. On the supermarket shelves, they're all coming from overseas. We are locked into these trade deals with America, the UK, and Europe. We are locked into these trade deals, which means that the government is going to continue to ignore or to devalue our own abilities to plant and grow our own food. And this is what you need to look at. So it is not just the food itself, but it's, well, food is any solid or liquid, which when eaten or drink or drunken. Food is any solid or liquid, which when eaten nourishes the body, enabling it to function properly. Remember, said that a food. No, so that means that nothing GMO on a food, because you can eat it, but it's not going to nourish the body and it's not going to allow the body to function properly. What I am saying, because of what's happening in the background, because of Curtis Yarvin and Nick Land, and because of Peter Thiel, enough name we not hear, enough people we not hear about, because of Paul Dans and Kevin Roberts and Roger Savino and Russell Vought. Do you know the name Russell Vought? You might have heard it once or twice. He's a founder of the Center for Renewing America, which is part of Project 2025's advisory board. He is considered one of the architects of Project 2025. Well, you might have heard his name and you're not paying attention. When Donald Trump just recently said he was going to dismantle all of the federal agencies, he said that the way they're going to reconfigure them, all of them are going to be falling under Russell Vought. So you hear the name Russell Vought and you're probably just gone with your business. Well, he's an architect. He's one of the architects of Project 2025. They're not joking about what they're saying, A lot of people are saying, it's not going to happen. They're doing what they're doing. So we have Stephen Miller. We have Donald Trump, of course. We have J.D. Vance. We have Peter Navarro. We have Kent Lastman. These are names that when you hear them, you're supposed to lift up your head fast and look at, see how they're involved in what is happening. There have been some breakthroughs in cybersecurity, some transformative technologies, and significant strides have been made in quantum computing. And this is not just in the US, it's also in China. All of this is making it possible for what we are not paying attention to. So once again, I'd like to underscore that for us as a people, we pay attention to what's happening in the background. What's happening in the background is surveillance, is an Orwellian dystopian existence that they're about to roll out. It is surveillance like we have never seen it before. All of this is being coordinated to a large extent. A lot of this is being coordinated to a large extent by Peter Thiel and company. Pay attention. So this, in church, them used to call it the one world order. Well, remember me tell you, it is what it is. We can lose focus because they're really doing a puppet dance in front of us. And we are... I spoke a few weeks ago about future shock. And future shock is a real thing. So much happening around us that we can't see the beast. Palantir is a beast. And I'm not even saying this, the way Christians say it. But Christians can use it too. Palantir. It is not just another data company. It is a neural network of the beast system. It is integrating AI-driven surveillance, predictive policing, and total information control into a single dystopian package. Peter Thiel is at the center of it. The reptiles are also showing themselves. This is where we're heading. This is what is happening in the background. Palantir is what is happening in the background. Why is it that they're not talking more? We're not hearing more about Palantir. Why is it we're hearing about immigration and Cuba and Panama and Ukraine and Russia and all of that? What is happening in the background has always been happening. It was handed over from Biden to Trump. So that is, they've said there's always there's a name for it, but there's a system that's always running in the background. It's running in the background, and it really is a beast system. It involves this 100% surveillance, but it also involves, as I said, the beast system, but it also involves transhumanism. Transhumanism is not hard. It's already underway. They're already doing that. That is, quite a few of these, human people, machine are already out there. Do not be distracted by Elon Musk and him chainsaw. What they're doing in the back is more serious. Do not be distracted by Trump and him talking about Biden sleeping and just blaming everybody for everything. That is performative. That's what they want. They want you to not pay attention. Do not be distracted by him saying he's going to see if the gold is at Fort Knox or wherever the gold is kept. All of that is just part of the strategic organized chaos. What we have to pay attention to is a beast system that they're creating in the background that is going to impact us, that they've already created, that is going to impact us. So we have to determine whether or not we're going to continue as slaves, enslaved, or we're going to be self-sufficient, where we can feed ourselves and feed our families. So my solution, and I don't find another one yet right now, my solution to be prepared, and we're late, but still be prepared, is to protect our land, our water sources, fresh water and salt water. Protect our water sources. It is critical. If we do not protect anything else, protect our water sources. The land and the water are critical to how we're going to go forward. A shortage in the U.S. should not, any food shortage in the U.S. shouldn't affect us so seriously. So them can't have an egg problem in America, and then we are preparing for egg problem in Jamaica. Make that make sense. That cannot make no sense. I don't even know, as I said before, I don't even know where the common fall in there. I don't even know if it's big. You have any common fall up there? Because you never know, you might have one and then, or two.
I live in a high-rise complex on the 14th floor.
Oh, please, give me a break. Even then, it's not come and fall and come down. No, honestly, I haven't seen a come and fall in a very long time.
I still do. And I have friends
who have come and fall?
Only come and fall.
Really? Which part?
Right in the butcher.
You have introduced me. A Big A have friend. So we're good enough because you say Big A have friend who eat only come and fall eggs. So what we want to do is to ensure, say, how we breed them. Because we're going to need more. I mean, we don't have enough.
No, I'm serious. Probably I'm not privileged to say, but it's somebody you know.
Somebody who me know?
From time to time.
Okay. All right, so yes, all right. So Big A knows somebody. And other people might know somebody who have come and fall. But I would say protect the come and fall them. We laugh it over. Protect the come and fall them. Take care of the come and fall them, because this is where we're going. And I was talking about the goats to Big A, because, we see the goat them run up and down, and them just have the goat them Lego. All of these are going to be pretty important in short order, because whatever artificial food shortage that they're going to unleash on the world is going to be like an apocalypse. But we have to make sure so we can feed ourselves. I know the chemtrail things. I know about the chemtrails, but we can still plant. Why we can't? Why yam? Why people stop planting yam? Why yam so expensive? That's another thing. Yellow yam is very good, especially for menopausal women and women who have high cholesterol and so on. Yellow yam is the best kind of yam to eat. So what are we eating? We're too dependent on what is coming from overseas. The thing is that we're not going to stop them from taking the things from overseas because they're locked into the trade deals. What we have to do is bypass them. I'm going to find some time to talk about Palantir, to talk about the great beast, to talk about everything that's running in the background, to talk about Elon Musk, of course, but not to spend too much time on him. He was always going to do what he's doing, but to pay some attention to what is running in the background. Hopefully I can continue that next week. And in the meantime, do as much research as you can on Palantir. Palantir is what is running in the background. Technocracy and its evil twin, transhumanism, is what is running in the background. Everything else is noise. We're making way for the big A. Did you go to the big show last night?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you go to IMC?
No, I didn't either.
You've
Which
been...
one did you go?
I'm just going to wrap up now. Me not gonna with big A. I mean, I had a lot of funeral things.
You're not one.
Yeah, I had a lot of, not family, but friends, close friends. And then I had my father's memorial yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So we're kind of busy. We're kind of busy. Mm-hmm. So we never did do no partying. Right. You know, Son heard us asking for thing the last week, and she actually reached out to him.
Okay.
What the song you played last week? Keep Rich. Mm-hmm. So she actually reached out to him, and he says he could. He says, remember, we jokingly said that we want to keep Rich. It last half an hour this program. So one of our Universal producers reached out to him and his team, and he said he couldn't make it this week. So hey, Sunshine, good morning. What am I forgetting now? Arthur texted me before me sign out. What it is that because you're calling me on the air, so that means me need to look at something. And okay, I'm not quite sure. All right, 2 minutes after 10 o'clock, the Big A is inside the studio. This is how we're saying goodbye for today as we make way for the Big A. My name is Kabu. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you to everyone who participated online and on the phone lines. Thank you so much. See you next week.